geopolitics and big infrastructure projects, the past, current, and the likely future. From the past, there are many projects we can take inspiration from and learning from. Suez Canal, Panama Canal, fights between various powers, fight between the various capitalists who wanted to control it, and in the end, they came about. Now, coming to Europe, there are a number of states which are under the control of some countries. For example, Turkish states through which Black Sea is connected, and the Black Sea materials of Ukraine and Russia and Turkey itself pass through, is due to historical treaties under the control of Turkey. And Turkey demands and gets a transit fee. Similarly, Egypt demands and gets transit fee from Suez Canal, and US companies get transit fee in Panama Canal. Okay, that's one. Then on our east, there is the Malacca Straits. Malacca Straits are also very small. Malacca Straits, therefore, there is a geopolitical competition between India and China to control them. Both of them are. These controls are related to your ships, your trade, being able to pass through some place without any restrictions. For example, Ukraine's ship today cannot pass through the Turkish Straits without getting checked for the weapons while going and while coming. The reason is very simple, because Russia, which also has control over some ports there, would not allow it. So this is the freedom of action. Indian Ocean, luckily, India has the freedom of action. Now, therefore, what is it coming up? The ports which the China is putting up is a very, very strong link. But sometimes I think, which port is developed by which port authority, and whether that port authority is owned by that town like Hamburg or Haifa, or it is owned by a company, doesn't make any difference whether it's a Chinese company which owns it, or a Japanese company which owns it, or an American one, or an Israeli one. In my view, it does not, because they are in this for the business of making the transit fees and other things relating to the ports. Earlier, people didn't used to bother about the commercial lands which develop around these, etc., etc. But now they know it very well that the commercial lands will develop over a period of time, even hundreds of years. So some of these ports in Europe are hundreds of years old. In Oman, it is hundreds of years old. UAE is hundreds of years old. They may have been small ports at that time. Having said this, there is a military angle to it, because in event of conflict, people can, the countries which have control over them can stop your navigation of any kind. And this Black Sea Grain Initiative is a very good example for discussing this. Now, next point. The next point is that there are a number of these integrated projects which have been figured out. I am spending a little more time on what is near us, because that is also neglected. Because in India, we will think about something Europe, but the new ports are not coming there. Even the old ports are available for sale, and China is buying those. Or Haifa, which India has bought it. Or Chawar, where India is co-owning it. And Haifa, incidentally, is co-owned by China and India. It's a historical port, very good port, and is part of the IMEC project. Now, so we will discuss this project. IMEC project is number one, but it has not yet been finalized. It is basically 8 nations: UAE, Saudi Arabia, India, USA, Israel, and then going to maybe Greece and Jordan, and so the train passes through Jordan and all that. So we will explain that project along with the maps, etc., etc. That's one. Second, a major project which is almost done now is connecting the Uyghur, where the Uyghurs are there, that portion of the China, via Mongolia to Central Asia, to Russia. And there is a pipeline too. So railroad, pipeline, road. Now you might know that Eurasia, that is Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, they have plenty of oil and gas, plenty of oil and gas. So now I'm not telling you the numbers. It is 200 million tons or something, and over X number of period of time, that these gas and so on. Remember, China is short of this, while Central Asia has excess of it, and Russia has excess of it. So it is going. Now this pipe is then connected to Afghanistan also, and to Iran, so that Iran oil can be pumped. And imagine they're doing it in all those tough mountains. When we otherwise talk, who will make it? Who will make it? No, they make it. They make it. It is civil engineering task. It's a very difficult one. Don't we make? Haven't we made for quite some time roads on the toughest mountains, including Mount Everest? And now we'll be taking it above Arunachal Pradesh and above Ladakh, etc. So we do that. We are doing it commercially. We have not thought in terms of commercial come military use of it. They have thought about it, commercial and military use of it. So that depends on the policy. Now, so then there is a pipeline project which was Power of Siberia 1 from the Siberian fields for gas via Mongolia to Vladivostok. Then that line has been extended to China, and that line India and Japan also co-owned it, right? Then there was some problem because Japan is part of the G7. They don't want to be part of it. So Power of Siberia 2, a much bigger pipe, as much as capacity as the Nord Stream 2, which was blasted in Europe, has been now put and perhaps will be operational in 2024. And these are massive projects, 10,000, 12,000 kilometers long, and so on. But both Russia and China have now very good capability of laying pipes on very, very difficult terrains. Siberia, as you know, is almost permanently frozen, and you have to do this, and they have the capability of that. And then along with that is a route which is called the North Sea route, which is the other side of Russia's border, near Norway, you can say, but all frozen, Antarctica, and then that pipe is coming to another port near Vladivostok, where India is got the right to access it. Starts with K. I'm not sure about the full name. India has the rights to pick up things from Vladivostok also. Now, from Vladivostok, just around the Bay of Bengal, and you are in India, whichever side you want to go. You want to go Kerala and so on. Now, here is something I just want to briefly mention. There was too much emphasis earlier on one port called Mumbai. Kolkata port also had gone down in importance, and the southern Indian ports, which have been there for thousands of years, had also gone down. Since privatization, this thing has opened up. So some of the ports on Gujarat coast are the shortest as far as going to Oman and Chawar port and Middle East are concerned. Mumbai is farther off. So hopefully that policy will be such that we will use it intelligently. And so as part of this IMEC project, Saudi Arabia has already announced an investment of $50 billion, 50, to set up a big refinery. Now this is the meaning of an economic corridor. Not just talking about, there is a shipping place or a port to come and go. No, right there on the port, you are bringing your oil, you are making a refinery, diesel and so on, and diesel and so on is required in Europe, you export it. Somebody might say why Saudi Arabia doesn't do it. Saudi Arabia starts putting up refinery and all that, so it's putting all eggs in one basket. Why should they do it? They will have some, but not all. Now that's a matter of strategy. I will not go into it, but geopolitics is also involved in these things. Now, talking about the same project, in the recent United Nations General Assembly, the Prime Minister of Israel has specifically talked about this project, and he had a board and a sketch pen in his hand, drawing that we are going to have now a new Middle East. Why? Because there is going to be handshaking with Saudi Arabia, and therefore the Sunni world, therefore with the Arab world. So because Saudi Arabia is a kind of leader, Iran is a kind of leader of Shias, and then the Turkey is the leader of the old caliphate thing is there, Khilafat, caliphate. which where especially the um, Turkey or Turkish background people have been there, and whole over Central Asia is that actually. This Turkestan and Turkmenistan and so on and so forth, where Turkey tries to put its influence. And therefore, your pipeline going or not going depends on the interaction of these people and the relationships of these countries. So there was this problem in the Middle East where Israel was given, or Jews were given land in 1948 by British, who controlled that area of Palestine and all that. So Palestine had this homeland, and then finally, then they could not get after these two major wars, etc., etc. And Arabs and Israel have been at loggerheads. And then the issue of the nuclear bomb comes, that Iran is, if Iran is going to have a nuclear bomb, then Israeli will have a nuclear bomb, or Israeli has a nuclear bomb, therefore Iran wants to have a nuclear bomb. And then Saudi Arabia says that if Iran has a nuclear bomb, we must have a nuclear bomb. Now, it's not a question of Islamic there, it's a Sunni Shia thing there. Okay, now next project. The next project is already tying up by BRI various things in the ASEAN countries and all that. India suggested a there's some other word to connect from Manipur to Myanmar to Laos to Cambodia to Vietnam, Thailand. This is all contiguous area. But middle stuck. Though the North Corridor also was stuck, but now it's kind of moving because it was stuck because of US sanctions actually, right? So, and then the excuse here is that Myanmar has this problem, there is a dictatorship and all that, and then we get influenced by the Western parties. If we don't do it, then it's one extended market, and this will happen. So now let's go to the next projects, that the Nord Stream pipelines, which are going from Siberia to Europe, are out of commission. With the result that this uncoupling is taking place of the Russian energy from the European markets. And already the oil prices are touching $100, close to $100. Demand is 102 million tons, 0.5, and supply is 100 million tons, which only means that the prices will go up. Now, I will not go into more of it because then there is an issue of sanctions. It's because of the US sanctions, particularly, but also US and European sanctions, that many of these infrastructure projects have got stuck in the past. Fortunately, this IMEC project, USA is a party to it, and European Union is a party to it. So hopefully this particular project will work out, and rather than looking at cost per mile and transportation and all that, we should look at it in a wider face, because Saudi Arabia, UAE want food parks, they want other things. Israel can give a lot of that technology. So Israel and Saudi Arabia in the last few weeks have been coming together. Now there was one conflict where Russia was on one side, but actually has become a broker, which is between Albania and Azerbaijan, of the Nabakh-Karabakh enclave, that is, I call it enclave, where two wars have taken place earlier after they separated out from the Soviet Union. So we will look at these projects as we go along. I've just given you a very wide brush of it, and then we will attach the maps so that it becomes easy to comprehend. Thank you. Now, therefore, summing it up, while we will have these separate capsules with maps and other details and so on, suffice it to say that the geopolitics influences these things. Infrastructure in Asia, Africa is, even South America is not that good. Africa, like we used to have in our towns, after the airport or the capital city, 10, 15 kilometers you go, and the road becomes very narrow and dirt road, and then after some time it becomes similarly about medical hospitals and educational institutions. There are good ones in capital town, and then they evaporate. So lots of this infrastructure work has to be done. It's a great opportunity. China has latched onto it. rather than we criticizing China or anybody for that matter who has taken that initiative. And not everything will go hunky-dory. We should look at what we can do. What we can do in our neighborhood. What have we done for roads in Nepal or Bangladesh? Or as I'm saying in Manipur, where all the kinds of people come from Myanmar. Supposing we had a peace project through that, Myanmar and Laos, Cambodia, etc. Incidentally, we will talk about a project in Laos which Chinese have done of railroad, and in fact show you the documentary. And that shows, about what change it can bring. So there are lots of positive stories also. Like the media, they enjoy talking about the negativities. So we should do this, understand the geopolitics, how geopolitics changes. We did supply arms to Albania, but now anyway, it has kind of sorted out. And at least the ceasefire is there. Similarly, ceasefire will be there sooner or later in Ukraine. And then once again, opportunity will be there to rebuild that particular country. Estimates are $1 trillion is required for that. Now that's a market. Uh, and So we should think in terms of infrastructure as a peace arm. When people are together, when they say that when you eat together, when you live together, when you travel together, when you enjoy together, you are less likely to fight. Thank you very much.